Back on April 17th, the IPFW men's volleyball team competed against Ohio State in the quarterfinals of the MIVA Conference Tournament. Unfortunately for the VolleyDons, their season came to an end at the hands of the Buckeyes, losing 3-0. I'll be joined this week by head men's volleyball coach Ryan Rock-Parat, as well as men's volleyball assistant coach JW Kiekefer, to not only discuss the match, but also wrap up the 2016 men's volleyball season. Stay tuned for more right here on VolleyDons Weekly. Welcome back to VolleyDons Weekly. I'm your host, Jordan Armstrong. A shout out to our sponsors, Alco, Active Ankle, ASICS, Glenbrook Dodge, and Hyatt Place. As I mentioned during the opening, the Mastodons fell during the MIVA quarterfinals at the hands of Ohio State. I'd like to welcome in now men's volleyball coach Ryan Rock-Parat. And it's been a while since we've been here, so a lot of time has gone over since our loss at the hands of the Buckeyes.
I've missed this place. I have missed coming to the studio regularly. I have missed the weekly conversations with the staff and crew. It's great to be back. I heard that we're going to do shows all summer long.
All summer long? Are you getting a new host for that? Because I'm not going to be around during the summer.
I think I'm going to host myself, so I think it's going to be great.
So it's going to be the VolleyDon Hour starring Ryan Rock-Parat?
Hour. We'd go for 24.
Oh, 24 hours. 24-hour news.
No, it's great to be back. I've almost forgotten volleyball. It's been so long. It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. A lot has happened in not only IPFW volleyball, but the scope of NCAA volleyball as a whole during that 2-week period.
Where shall we begin?
Some would say you should start at the beginning, which in this case, the beginning was the end of the season for the IPFW men's volleyball team, traveling up to Columbus for a Sunday evening match to face the Buckeyes in St. John Arena. And unfortunately, the Buckeyes just ended up being more than the Mastodons could handle, firing their serves, really clicking on all cylinders as they ended up eventually winning the MIVA Conference Championship overall.
Well, it was unorthodox because we played the MIVA quarterfinal on Sunday. 4 teams played on the Friday. Then there was Ball State and McKendree on Saturday. We played the last, and the reason why is because Ohio State hosted the gymnastics championships at St. John Arena, so they didn't have the facility to use until Sunday. So we went and played, and they could have beaten anybody that night. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, they served well, they passed well, their offense clicked, they blocked balls, they played defense, their transition game was very good. I knew it was a very bad sign early, at least an omen early, when the very first serve of the match was a service ace for Ohio State. I mean, we battled. I thought our matchups were good. We just couldn't get on a string to pressurize them. And that's why they're the best team in our conference, is because they can serve and pass better than anybody else, and they don't give up massive runs. And that's a sign of a really good championship team. And they have the best player in our conference.
And speaking of the best player in our conference, Nicholas Sturgeon, additionally, after the conference championship and during the championship week, conference awards were given out, and we had some awards given to players here at IPFW. Alex Harthaler, sophomore outside, got an honorable mention after only participating in the second half of the season due to injury. And then we also had 2 first-team All-MIVA selections in both libero Luis Bertrand and senior opposite Andrew Sellen.
And Alex probably would have been a first-teamer had he played more and wasn't injured. But what he did when he came back in March was just phenomenal. I mean, he was our best player for half the season. In terms of Andy, he led the league in points, led the league in kills, was ranked nationally in both of those categories as well in the top 5. And even though his numbers probably weren't as good as we'd all wanted it to be, what he did throughout the course of the season was really impressive, given the fact that opponents only keyed on him more times than not. So that was a great accolade for Andy, and he came back from injury. And Luis Bertrand just had a steady year all year long. I mean, I think 16 out of the 28 matches we played, he had double digits in digs. His passing numbers were off the charts. He was ranked nationally. So kudos to all 3 of those guys for their postseason awards.
And then some additional awards will be handed out next week as the national tournament takes place, when the All-American players that were nominated will then be decided between the All-American committee, and we hope to see some recognition for our athletes as well during that regard also.
Yeah, I mean, there is so much parity across the country in terms of level of play amongst teams and level of play amongst individuals. And this year, as you can see in the field of the national tournament of the Final Six, I think there will be a lot of great candidates I'm on the All-America committee, my first time nominating and voting, so I'm pretty nervous about doing it, but pretty excited at the same point. We're going to have 10 first-team All-Americans. Second team will also consist of 10, and then the honorable mention will consist of 20. So we'll go through the names and numbers, and that'll be released during the national quarterfinals at State College at Penn State.
Looking ahead to just where the landscape of volleyball is right now, after we lost in the quarterfinals, it set up the MIVA semifinals, which consisted of number 1 seed Ohio State taking on number 6 seed McKendree, who upset Ball State on Saturday night, as you mentioned, of that week. And then Battle of Chicago, which seems to happen every year during the MIVA playoffs between Lewis and Loyola. Both of those semifinals resulting in Ohio State beating McKendree in 4 sets, as well as Lewis coming from behind to defeat 2-time national champion Loyola Chicago. So if you want to talk a little bit about the semifinal matchups before we get into what happened actually in the finals.
Well, McKendree, I was not surprised they took a set off of Ohio State. McKendree, moving forward, will be a semifinal team consistently, and they're on the verge of becoming a finalist in this conference because they're so athletic. They can recruit well. They got great facilities, but they're athletic and they're big. But they took a set off of Ohio State. The Loyola-Lewis thing is always a conundrum because of the rivalry that they have now had. I mean, they played in the national final a year ago with Loyola winning an unbelievable 5-set, best final probably since 91, 92, maybe even 97 when Stanford beat UCLA. But that matchup was so great because it went back and forth. The finals between Ohio State and Ohio State blows them out in the first 2 sets, 17 and 18. All of a sudden, you go through the intermission, and here comes Lewis, and they pull out sets 3 and sets 4, and then it goes down to the wire, tied at 11 in the 5th set, and then Ohio State manages to put it away, and Nicholas Serzin's the outside, the MVP of our conference, ends up having a monster game, hitting over 320-plus kills. They win 15-12 in the 5th set, and I think it was great for Ohio State to go through battle testing in their conference because they get to play George Mason now in the national quarterfinal. I think that's going to be very good because the winner of that will play UCLA. I think the layoff is going to hurt UCLA in the national semifinal if they play Ohio State. If they play George Mason, I don't think it will. And I want to wish, obviously, Ohio State the best of luck moving forward representing the MIVA.
Exactly, previewing a little bit like you did there, the national tournament, which was released, the bracket was released on Sunday, consists of all 4 of the conference champions from the 4 men's volleyball conferences throughout the country, as well as 2 at-large selections, which is based very similarly off of the selection criteria for March Madness, where you look at strength of schedule, RPI, common opponents, and then ranking and conference finishes.
Wins and losses.
Yep, wins and losses. So this year it consists of BYU, who won the MPSF, who's the number 1 overall seed.
Right.
UCLA, as you just mentioned, the number 2 seed, even though coming from the same conference, they get the at-large bid, ahead of MIVA conference champion Ohio State, who came in at 3. And then the 4th seed goes back out to a member from the MPSF, Long Beach State, who got the 2nd at-large bid. And then it's rounded out by Conference Carolina champion Erskine, out of North Carolina, and then over to George Mason, who won the EIVA, which was kind of up and down anyone's game at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And those are all teams that we've played throughout the year.
And the Carolina Conference is getting better, actually, as it goes through, except the bracket is terrible. And no offense, because I use logic usually when I do that, but right now BYU is the number 1 team, as they should be. They won the MPSF. But Ohio State has to be the 2 seed and not the 3 seed. How can you win your conference and not be a 2 seed? And the MIVA conference, no disrespect to the EIVA, is a stronger conference. You can't give a team that loses in the conference like UCLA does and give them a bye in the national quarterfinal. And oh, by the way, Ohio State was ranked number 2 anyway in the country.
And on a 20-match winning streak.
And on a 20-match winning streak. And oh, by the way, beat Long Beach State. And oh, by the way, beat somebody else out west. Maybe they beat UCLA, but they beat somebody else out west. You can't do that. It's unfair. And it gives a bad look for the rest of the volleyball community outside of the MPSF. Now, I'm not saying that UCLA isn't deserving. Sure they are. But they should be playing the national quarterfinal match, not Ohio State. Ohio State should be the 2 seed. They should have a bye getting their work in, but I'm not on that committee. But I'm just telling you the way that it is. I think it's a shame that Ohio State got gypped. In my personal opinion. Now, I hope they take it out on the volleyball court and do their duty and
definitely
win 3 matches and move on.
One extra match will help them get settled and be a step ahead of UCLA when assuming that they succeed over George Mason, they make it into
The Super Bowl
semifinals.
playoffs, the NFL playoffs are the perfect example why you don't want to buy going into the postseason. It works out every time that the team that plays the wild card weekend, just like it does in volleyball. Last year, Loyola, thank goodness they had to play that quarterfinal, because if they didn't, they were rusty going into the semifinal match. That was a good thing they did.
And with that, we'll be joined during the next segment and for the rest of the show by men's volleyball assistant coach J.W. Kiekefer. Stay tuned for more here on VolleyDons Weekly on CTV.
I teach the performance of poetry, so we're addressing how to perform poetry as well as how to find poetry. The first thing, when they're in the freshman and sophomore classes, I try to get them to get their voice. They have to have a voice. I always have people coming to me from math and biology telling me how the techniques that I use in poetry help them in their other genres of learning.
Welcome back to VolleyDons Weekly. Joining me for the final spotlight segment this season is both head coach Ryan Rock-Perrat as well as assistant coach J.W. Kiekefer. For the spotlight this week, I kind of want to make it a spotlight on the whole season. Kind of talk a little bit about the whole season, how we feel like we didn't do, complaints, have some arguments, whatever you guys really feel like doing here, because I know arguing is both of your specialties.
I don't know.
What a terrible thing to say. We do not argue as a staff. We do not argue at all.
Impassionate conversation? Can we say that
we
instead?
discuss, Jordan Armstrong. We discuss.
Oh, discussions.
We have
Heated discussions with
discussions.
passion and opinions.
I disagree usually with stuff, but I don't know.
We have discussions with the staff. We don't fight. We have discussions.
All right, where would you want to
There's no
start? Where do you want to
conflict.
start?
Let's go back about a month and a half ago. We're on the outside looking in of the playoff picture. We haven't gotten any conference win yet. We're still kind of getting back into a rhythm now that Alex is back playing again, and we start to build some momentum. We're not only just playing well, but we come back from behind and beat Grand Canyon, and then looking at the rest of our schedule, we're kind of at a place where we can not only get into the playoffs like we were able to do, but we can potentially get all the way back up to being the 6th seed. What do you think was really a turning point in the season, getting us back into that position to be successful?
My turn?
You're up first.
Wow.
I'll go last. You always go
getting
first, I go
on
last.
the spot here on the spotlight segment, huh? I think it was big for our players just to kind of experience that win, especially since we were made up of almost close to half freshmen this year, our team was. So, our freshman setter, Michael Keegan, Jason Zaleski was playing middle for that match. Kyle Fitzgerald was playing middle for that match. We had 2 sophomores on the left pin. So it was a really, really young team. So it was good to just kind of get that first one under our belt and get confident and know that we can play at this level, because Grand Canyon had beaten Lewis earlier in the year, who ended up getting seeded 4th. And they took a match out of Loyola the week after we played them, I'm pretty sure. So, it gave ourselves some confidence that we could really compete in the conference, even though we had known that. Now we knew we could compete and win in the conference, and I think that helped our young guys going forward.
To answer your question, as far as I'm concerned, when Alex came back, that was the turning point for our season in terms of trying to get on the right level. And number 2, going to Puerto Rico, because it got us away from the negativity and the environment of our record and losing in conference. And because the downfall was losing here at home to Lords. And Alex hadn't played yet. He ended up playing later on. And so that was the turning point, because he stabilized a lot of things for our team. And as good as it was, which it was, the victory against Grand Canyon to come back in 5, because I think we went on like maybe a 4-match winning streak. What it did was it solidified in my mind, because the very next night we were so physically worn out by coming back in 5, we ended up losing. It solidified in my mind that we could do certain things really, really well, and I couldn't change a lot of the other X factors for our team. I think there was a solidified 8-9 to deal with, and I love the fact that our team got closer, especially down the stretch because of this quote-unquote playoff push. So I think those are the 2 things that really propelled us into the postseason.
Now, do you think that a lot of that is not only a reflection on the team coming more close together, kind of signifying of an obvious common goal that's always there, but in this case it was really apparent that that goal might not be achieved, and the fact that just as the season went on, everyone kind of got more comfortable playing and were able to play more to the level that we always knew that they were capable of, and gaining some confidence that way, especially from some of the younger players?
I think it was more of the latter, and there are two reasons, at least I think, for that. Number one, I changed how we trained and practiced and prepared. So that was different, because I think a lot of the goals that our guys set was myopic and not long term. The other thing that I think helped is that there was so much battling going on elsewhere that we were kind of overlooked, and I think we kind of embraced the underdog role for a few of the matches anyway. And we had revenge on our minds. I mean, when we played Lindenwood, when we played McKendree. So I think those two factors play a lot into what you just asked.
Now, JW, I want to ask you this. I mean, we talked about a little bit about the growth of our freshmen as the season went on, and it definitely needed to not only happen, but transpire and take effect on the court, especially as the season went on and we got into those crunch situations. And when you actually look at, I know when we talked about it as a staff at some of those matches when we were able to get victories, it really was some of our younger players, freshman setter Michael Keegan, freshman middle Kyle Fitzgerald, Tony Price, really being able to elevate their level of play to not only stabilize us as a whole, but also take some pressure off of the likes of Andy or Luis or Alex Hartholler even.
Well, I think it's important to note that we were able to, especially what Rock was saying when Alex Hartholler came back, I think it gave us a second weapon to use out of system. I think our offense got kind of stagnant when we needed big points and we were going to go to Andy. And Andy just wasn't able to bail us out. I thought he did a good job through a majority of the match or majority of games to get us to the point to win. But those last couple big swings, he just wasn't able to capitalize on. And just this team as a whole, I think we had to figure out ways to win. And I think our freshmen understood that we had to battle earlier to win, I think, as opposed to battling late to get wins in this season. You look at a lot of the wins that we got, it was more the 5-point, 6-point wins in games and sets. We didn't really win a whole ton of those close ones. So it was important for our younger guys who are used to playing in that club atmosphere where you can kind of just walk through a couple early matches and then figure it out late when you need to. That's not the case in Division I men's volleyball. You got to come out with guns blazing from the point one in each set. So I think it was something that our young guys had to learn and figure out that first point in the first set means just as much as the last point in the third set or last point in the fifth set. Because if you can give yourself a lead, you don't have to score those 2 points under pressure. You can just cruise to the end. So I think that's something that was a learned thing and a process for our younger guys as the season went on.
Now, looking back on just the season as a whole, where we started, you guys were with them during the fall before I had gotten back into town to help out, and just the overall growth of not only individuals but also the team collectively. Despite the losing streak that took place during the middle of the season, was there enough growth and development over this first year for both of you as in your new roles as a head coach and assistant coach respectively, but also in your younger players to kind of forecast where the program could be headed over the next couple of years after the departure of these seniors?
You want me to go first again?
I always defer to you first.
You look concerned when you turn your head like you don't know what to say.
It's just my look.
It's just common courtesy.
It's my political look.
I think there's some positives that can be taken from this year from a lot of those young guys. I think Kyle Fitzgerald did a phenomenal job as the season went on to learn the nuances of playing the game at this level. I think he kind of was very overwhelmed when he came in for Graydon kind of midway through the season because of Graydon's injury. So I think Kyle was overwhelmed to start, and I think he did a very good job as the season progressed of understanding what it takes to be a Division I middle. I think Michael took some steps forward, and it was good to see that. He was probably our starter for a majority of the year. Maybe he didn't start for a third of it, but he's going to be a player moving forward who's going to need to be successful and understand his role going forward for us to win. And I think he took some steps forward in a leadership standpoint. He can take a lot more forward from a leadership standpoint, but it's good to see him take those first ones. So we're really excited to get him back and with a year of experience under his belt. I think Kyle and Graydon are two really good players and can be good players for us moving forward in the middle. Kyle did a great job as the season wore on, and I thought Graydon came out and was a very good player for us as a freshman in his first couple matches. So if he can get healthy with his knee, it's a bright future for him and a bright future for our middles, really. And then, we talk about Alex Dickman, who didn't really play a whole ton this year, but is going to step in for Andy on the right side, hopefully, and do some good things for us next year. Really athletic. He's got a great left arm, really live left arm. So I think there's a lot of things to be positive about moving forward, and a lot of things that these freshmen learned as the season progressed.
I think there was some growth in some and not some growth in others. I think when you are young and the jump from the club level to the high school, from the high school level to the college level, especially D1, is massive. And when you play 5 freshmen or 5 inexperienced players, it's a big learning curve. And I don't know how I feel about that, because I know it's a process. It's one of the things that I irk myself about, because it's not about the results, it's about the process. Results should come maybe 3 years down the road. But I sometimes wonder, because I can tell you about my evolution throughout the course of the year. I can't tell you, because I can't get into the minds. It's one of the worst things that we do as humans, is try to get into the minds of other people and provide intent. That's what the law is for. I can't tell you the intent of these guys moving forward. I would like to think that after going through this experience, that a lot of them are going to bust their butt over the course of the summer, because they now know what it is, or what it feels like to be a Division I participant, and what we can potentially do. But the learning curve on the court has got to get better in 3 aspects. Number 1, the mastery of skill. Our skill level has got to get better. From serving and passing to blocking. Our defense was actually pretty good, to be quite frank with you, but our transition game wasn't very good. And then the individual skills, setting, attack, etc. Number 2, conditioning. We were 2-9 on the season on the second end of back-to-back matches. Well, all our matches now are going to be back-to-back. You can't expect to be successful going 2-9 throughout the course of the season, especially when you play 16 conference matches. And then the 3 is the intangible that JW talked about, is in regards to leadership. And that's a big thing that encompasses so many things. And we need that. And I think we have things in place that over time will develop into something very positive that we can look at and go, yes! But I walk on a fine line when I try to evaluate our kids to say, did he do this? Did he process what we tried to tell him over the course of the year? What are they going to use to move forward? Am I pleased with some of the individuals? Yes. Am I not so pleased? Yes, because I think the big picture is, where are we going to go from a 3-13 team in conference next year and the year after that?
Sounds good. And we'll look forward to next year a little bit as we get into the final segment, Dishing the Rock, coming up right here, right now on VolleyDons Weekly.
We've got the course where we run a restaurant for 10 weeks. And it's really tough, and I'm not easy in the classroom with these things, because this is a place where it becomes real. We're preparing 300 or 400 dishes in 4 hours, serving 150 customers, and and you're having to analyze the data and do menu engineering afterwards at 11 o'clock at night. Just like you'd do if you had your own business, you'd have to do these things.
Welcome back to VolleyDons Weekly. It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Dishing the Rock. A quick shout out beforehand to our sponsors, IAB, Indiana Physical Therapy, Moulton, Oni, and Pizza Hut. I'd like to welcome back head men's volleyball coach Ryan Rockpratt, as well as assistant men's volleyball coach JW Kiekefer. And for Dishing the Rock this week, we haven't really been able to pay homage to our great sponsors throughout the season, so I just wanted you to take a little bit of time to discuss some of our sponsors, the first one being Alco.
Greg Dahm and the people at Alco love them to death. They've been with us for many, many years, and we thank them for their support. They also assist with our golf outing as well in the summer, so kudos to Alco.
Golf outing is coming up on Friday, June 10th, correct?
Correct.
Information, if anyone's interested, they should go to...
online or contact Ron Clark at 481-6617.
There you go, 481-6617. Alco, Active Ankle's up next, excuse me.
I'm doing Active Ankle.
We'll go back and forth.
Active Ankle has been with us for a long time. They give a really great, almost superior product to our athletes for helping out with ankle protection, and it's something that we went through last year, actually twice last year with Andy and Nick Smalter. They provide us such a great product, and it's a really good company that's been with us for, I don't know, probably 20, 30 years at this point now, for a long time. So they do some really good things for our team and keep our guys safe.
Asics.
Asics, unbelievable. The apparel that we get from Asics. Obviously, you got the polo. I got the sweat top. You got whatever that is. They are
It's a jacket.
Jacket, sorry. sweat
Warm-up jacket, yeah.
But what they provide with shoes and apparel, I mean, we look good, we feel good. The product is phenomenal. Customer service is off the charts. 2 thumbs up for Asics.
Glenbrook Dodge, another sponsor that helps us with our golf outing.
Glenbrook Dodge, a local sponsor of ours. They do a great job helping us out with the golf outing. They sponsor the par 3 hole-in-one hole, if you will, where if you get one, you get a car. So they've helped us out with our golf outing for a long time now. A local company that we really like to back here in Fort Wayne. So thank you to Glenbrook Dodge for being with us for a while now.
Hyatt Place.
Hyatt Place, the ladies over at Hyatt Place, they do an unbelievable job with hosting our teams when they come in from out of town, provide discounts to parents and family members, anything IPFW men's volleyball related. So they've been with us also a long time. They help us out with our margaritas at the golf outings. So thank you. We look forward to seeing you this summer, and thank you for your service.
IIB Bank is up next.
IIB Bank has, again, been with us for a very long time. All of these sponsors really have been with us for a very long time, and we're thankful for every single one of them. IIB Bank, I believe, sponsors your office, if I'm not correct.
That is correct. Our men's volleyball office.
Our men's volleyball office, and they probably sponsor a couple of the rooms throughout the facility at Gates Sports Center. So not only a great sponsor of ours who've donated a lot of money, but another local company that we love to support and be with. And they do a lot of things for our athletics department as a whole as well. So thanks to IIB Bank.
Indiana Physical Therapy.
You know, if people got injured, if athletes got injured, they would never need Indiana Physical Therapy. But we need to thank Indiana Physical Therapy because half our team was injured this year.
Especially after the
That's
year
the
we've
reason our
had.
record was 3-13. But they do an unbelievable job. Mary, and I forget the other lady. Marin, the unbelievable job that Indiana Physical Therapy does with our athletes, rehabbing, getting them back into playing shape, healing their wounds a little bit. So we thank them also for their unbelievable service.
Moulton, a well-known sponsor throughout all of volleyball, but especially here for us at IPFW.
Yeah, everybody has to play with Moulton Volleyball, so we're lucky enough to be sponsored by Moulton as a company. Great customer service, as Rock has said before. Every time we have an issue with maybe one of their products, they send one right back to us for free right away with very little hassle involved. So, they're just a beautiful company and great to work with. And they're a sponsor of, I believe, men's volleyball as a whole in this country, and also of USA Volleyball and Norseca, I believe. So a very big volleyball sponsor and one we're glad to be working with here at IPFW.
O&E.
O&E, again, another medical service here for IPFW, the great doctors, number one, and the great services that they provide coming in and checking with our athletes and our trainers. Some of our trainers with O&E and the services that they provide, because they put in endless hours. I mean, endless hours preparing and doing different stuff with our athletes and getting ready for practice and training. Unbelievable services. We are very, very lucky to have O&E on board.
And Dr. Pritchard to do all of the surgeries, one of the
Amazing.
top class medical people in the Midwest.
Well, we didn't have any surgeries, but generic.
Knock on wood, yeah, knock on wood.
And final sponsor, Pizza Hut. Whichever
Pizza
one
Hut.
you want to tackle that one.
Beautiful Pizza Hut, huh? We go to Pizza Hut after every Friday home game to have their buffet there at Pizza Hut. It's really good. We love going to Pizza Hut. The staff there, the wait staff there is amazing. Just the staff behind the counter that we deal with is amazing. They do a great job of hosting us every week, and we're glad to go out with our guys and have some fun out there at Pizza Hut every Friday.
And it's the Pizza Hut across on Coliseum.
Northcrest.
Northcrest, yeah, across from
Glenbrook.
Northcrest. They host both of our volleyball guys for the buffet, and they also host all of our alumni, our sponsors, our people who come to our matches, who can have a meal with us after every home game at Pizza Hut. So if you're hanging around next year and coming to a volleyball game on Friday, come up to Pizza Hut with us afterwards at the Northcrest location.
And that was a great segue, because that's going to wrap up this season of VolleyDons Weekly. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors who we just mentioned, as well as the TV folks here at CTV on campus at IPFW. A big thank you to our guest this week, assistant men's volleyball coach J.W. Kiekefer, as well as head men's volleyball coach Ryan Rock-Parat.
And I want to say thank you for hosting this year. You did an unbelievable job, and I want to wish you the very best in your future endeavors.
Not a
thank
problem.
you, Jordan.
From all of us here at VolleyDons Weekly, I've been your host, Jordan Armstrong. We'll see you next year on the court inside the Gates Sports Center. For VolleyDons Weekly, have a good one.